One of the more challenging aspects of managing pigs on pasture is knowing when and how frequently to move the pigs. Pigs, like few other livestock, have the potential to alter the landscape in our fields dramatically. In fact, one of the most common comments that I get about pasture-raised pigs is indeed, pigs are wildly destructive. And while feral hogs can be wildly destructive, domestic hogs can be as well. But they can also be wildly beneficial to the land. There are times, however, where we can manage the pig's destructive tendencies to help benefit the landscape, whether it's clearing out briars and brambles and woods, or whether it's just clearing out some of the dense side. Let's go take a look at the pasture and discuss this topic in more detail. My general rule of thumb is to give the pigs 1 ton of feed per half-acre or so sized pig paddock. What that effectively means is that a group of this size pigs here on this pasture may be in this pasture paddock for 2 weeks. When they get larger, however, and they have the potential to do more impact on the land, they're moved much more frequently. Now, ideally, smaller groups of pigs like these and even smaller would get smaller size paddocks and they would be moved more frequently, but from a practical perspective, this often does not occur. There are exceptions to this general rule. For example, if I were trying to maximize the grazing nutrition and limit the amount of added feed that I'd have to give these pigs, I could easily move them into a large pasture and just rotate them daily or every couple days. The volume of grasses that the pigs would eat would be fewer, but they would get a lot more of the more nutrient-rich plants like chicory, plantain, curly dock, clovers, and many other higher valued feeds. And that's important because pigs do not get a whole lot of nutrition from grass alone. They get phytonutrients, they can get some minerals, but they don't get a whole lot of energy or protein because just like people, they're monogastrics. Another reason to shorten the interval that the pigs are in a paddock is if you wanted to just have the pigs graze without really rooting up a whole lot of the crop. You can see in the paddock that I'm standing in here that some of this forage is growing a little bit tall. It's not ready to graze yet, but if I wanted to just move the pigs in this paddock for half a day or even just a few hours, they could run around in here, they could graze, and I could move them off of it, and they'd be less likely to root the pasture up. But the most common reason we shorten the intervals of moving our pigs, in other words, they're in a paddock for a less amount of time, is because of wet weather. The wetter a field is, the more the pigs will impact that field in a negative way. They'll create wallows, they'll create craters, and most importantly, it'll create a compaction issue. Other reasons for more frequent moves in pig paddocks include things like it creates less boredom for the pigs. So there can be a lot of reasons for short intervals of moving pigs. But at times, we may want to leave the pigs in a paddock for a longer period of time. For example, these pigs have been in this paddock for 2 weeks now, and you can tell that the first couple days they ate all the forage in here. They're not getting a whole lot of extra supplemental nutrition. However, they are rooting up some of the coarser, more dense grasses that you'll see in the paddocks. Things like Vasey's grass, which is moderately nutritious for cows, but pigs don't get a whole lot of value out of it. And the pigs will also root up broom sedge. And then there's some of these little weedy plants right here. It's ironweed or something like that. I forget the name of it. But they'll root up more of those. But there's another reason to keep the pigs in a paddock longer as well. This whole field that the pigs are in is probably 1/2 to 3/4 of an acre, and then on the other side where those hay bales are right over there is another 1/2 to 3/4 of an acre. I had mixed success with a cover crop. I never did come back and replant it or graze it. The pigs finished up in this field last spring, and so what I did is I just left it there and came back this fall and planted some of these dwarf Essex rape, purple top turnips, and daikon radishes, which the pigs have already grazed. So what I'm wanting to do is increase the amount of manure that's applied to this field. One thing that many people don't realize is that pig manure is an excellent resource for soil fertility. Now, if you look at the exact numbers, let me define a couple terms. There are things called animal units with the abbreviation of capital A and capital U. We call that an animal unit, and one animal unit of pigs is the equivalent of about 1,000 pounds of live weight. So if these 25 or so pigs in here, if they each weigh 50 pounds on average, that means we've got about a 1 1/4 or so worth of animal unit in this field. Each animal unit of this type of pig will produce about 80 pounds of manure per day. So all of these pigs are producing about 100 pounds of manure. So if I'm getting 100 pounds of manure per day in this field, and if I keep the pigs in here for say 30 days, that means that I'm getting 3,000 pounds of manure in this paddock. There are some issues that you have to deal with to help keep the conditions sanitary in this paddock, but animal manure is an invaluable resource that really supercharges the soil fertility. Just a case in point, every 10 days, that's the equivalent of nutrients of about 100 pounds of 10-10-10 fertilizer deposited in this field. Those nutrients are a little bit off. That does give you an idea of how much fertility pigs can actually provide in this paddock. One of the things about pig manure that a lot of people don't realize, it's only about 0.5% of actual nitrogen in the manure. So in 1,000 pounds of manure, you've got about 50 pounds or so of nitrogen. Of that nitrogen, about half of it is in a form that's relatively easily volatilized. The other half of that nitrogen is an organic form of nitrogen that breaks down much more slowly and is much better for the plants on the field. It's just kind of like a delayed release fertilizer. There are times I've left pigs in wooded lots for an extended period of time because I've wanted them to chew up a lot of the half-rotten logs, and the pigs have done a wonderful job of that as well. The reason I'm keeping the pigs in the paddock that they're in here and the next one on down for a longer period of time is that I need a type of a sacrificial paddock. If you look in the rest of this 5-acre field around me, there is a lot of forage growing. Now this that you see right here that's so green is the northern half of field B. It has a lot of ryegrass, cereal rye, daikon radish, purple top turnip, Austrian winter peas, and some different clovers as well. This field has a lot of nutrition growing in it for pig, but most of these plants won't put on a whole lot of growth until March and April. If we can delay by a couple months the amount of time that we have to put our pigs in these paddocks, then we get a lot more nutrition and a lot more feed value out of all of these paddocks. So I'm trying to get these other 4 acres to produce a lot more forage. If I'm going to delay moving the pigs, I've got to find some way of mitigating the negative impacts of manure and soil moisture in this field. So you can see a lot of my strategy for that already. We got a lot of these bales of mulch hay. They're not really good feed value for cows or pigs. So what I do is I put the bales in the paddock, and I let the pigs kind of tear the bales apart like they've done here. And then I can easily just roll the bales and it spreads a lot of the hay out. You can see in areas where I've taken a few bales and just rolled them around the pen, and the pigs kind of scatter that out as well. I've got a few neighbors who bag their leaves and put them in these large super sacks. I bring them out to the farm and just dump them in these pens. I can go pick them up with a tractor fairly easily, and I don't have to deal with all the plastic bags that I used to have to deal with when collecting bags of leaves. So what I'm doing is I'm collecting carbon-based materials in this paddock to help absorb the easily volatilized ammonia from the pig manure, but also to help keep the paddock drier. So while the pigs put down a lot of nutrients themselves, one of the biggest benefits that I have with keeping these pigs in this place longer is that I'm improving the soil with this organic matter. I'm also improving it with the pig manure, and at the same time I'm allowing these other crops throughout the farm to put on more growth so that I maximize my pig feed value in another couple months. In this paddock I've already unrolled about 6 bales of hay, some more leaves to place in this field as well to kind of scatter out into this field. Knowing when to move your pigs is critical if you want to avoid a lot of damage to your land, but also if you want to maximize their positive impact on the ground as well.